appreciate it, and we really look forward to working with you. This is a community-wide problem, and it's going to take the whole community to help solve it, so thank you.
Before you leave, let me just push this question I asked you earlier, and kind of didn't get the answer I wanted, but I'm asking again. If churches open up their parking lots, porta pots, I understand. Security is a major issue, and let me say why. I've had squatters on my lot. It was hard to get them off. I have a homeless family that car was on my lot, and guess what? The car stopped running, so it couldn't move. So those are issues that we would have to deal with. Then the liability of it. I'm just being frank. Okay, so if I go back to my trustee board and say, hey, we want to put cars on the lot, first thing I'm going to say, okay, Pastor, what about the liability? What about this? What about that? Security is a major issue, especially if it's overnight. Because what I wouldn't want to do for my own congregation is to let folks come in, there's no security, and there's some, it's an in and out, and next thing you know, it's a whole out of control situation. That's a big issue, security. What can the city do? I heard something about $100 million. I mean, what can we do?
So the $100 million is capital funding for affordable housing. So that's not a source that can be used for security services at churches. And I'll just be super candid with you like I was the other day. We are funding challenged. And so we are trying to find other resources. What you're asking for is essentially payment for those services or providing those services, which still requires payment. We don't have a source for that yet. Doesn't mean we've given up on looking for it. We're aggressively looking for it. But right now, the challenge is resources. Everything that you've identified is totally legitimate and understandable. Again, this was an idea that we were pitching to this group for consideration, for discussion. Hopefully it'll provoke some dialogue. It might not be the solution that you all are interested in, but it's an idea. We don't have those resources identified right now.
But could we, if we select 3 or 4 sites as demonstration projects throughout Oakland, through congregations, synagogues, mosques, and there's a coordinated effort which would hopefully save funding to try to go towards it, and we go to foundations as a partnership. Would you be willing to work with us to try to raise that money?
Oh, absolutely, and we're doing that right now. Just to assure you, we're shamelessly approaching every foundation possible, and in partnership with you, I imagine it would be much more powerful. So yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Can I ask this question before she leaves? Because I heard you talk about the cleanup. How often are these spots cleaned up? Because they're not being cleaned up enough.
Joe, we agree, but Joe can also tell you what our scheduling process is.
Okay. Because for those of us who are out there with those persons all the time, like coming off behind the old Sears, that is not cleaned up enough.
You mean Northgate?
Huh?
No, you're talking about
over there off of, what is that, 20?
Yeah,
Right.
Northgate.
27 and Northgate.
27.
Yeah, that's not, it's just, it's a nuisance.
I was on Northgate for 3 hours yesterday morning overseeing the cleanup, and we actually have a woman there with a huge, severe hoarding mental health disability who we just can't take all her stuff, and it's just incredible because it's junk. And that's one of the challenges we face. So we have our public works crews, our Be Open, Clean and Beautiful crews, dedicated to addressing cleaning at homeless encampments on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays is when we do the heavier lift, where they need to do more of a deep cleaning or where we might need to make people move. So, for example, yesterday, so I'll tell you this week. On Tuesday, we cleared the south side of Sycamore, right there at Northgate. There were a few tents because we wanted to create a clear pedestrian access, across Northgate where the crosswalk is, where the curb cuts are for people who are using wheelchairs. So on Tuesday morning we did that, and in the north corner we put in porta potties and wash stations. And then on Wednesday we came back and started at 27th, and we went down to Sycamore and removed several truckloads of material. We basically told people you have to get off the street and up on the sidewalk. We had to draw a line. And it was challenging because people are hoarding and they have lots of stuff and they don't want to throw all of it away. And today I drove back early this morning and noted that some of them had already moved their stuff back into the street. So I emailed the police and the public works crews to remind them. And so anyway, that's what Tuesdays and Wednesdays look like. And then Thursdays, we just go from encampment to encampment to try to pick up garbage. No moving of tents. No enforcement activity, just pick up as much garbage as we can. We do that every Thursday. We're hitting 12 or 13 sites every Thursday, and even more on Wednesday afternoons. We did get more public works staff in the new budget. We did get more equipment, so it should get a little bit better. But it is to keep up with that demand and the demand of illegal dumping, which is sadly becoming combined with the homeless encampments, is too much for our staff. We don't have it. We can't keep up with all of it. You're absolutely right. And so,
because a lot of that stuff that's there, especially around as you come off the bridge, that's not those people's stuff.
That's right.
That's people from up here in the hills and stuff who come down here and dump their stuff, thinking that maybe they can use this trash.
That's correct. It's a twisted sort of altruism. There's a refrigerator. I mean, come on, that's dumping. And so Northgate, Wood Street, and 6th and Castro are our three largest, worst encampments that we'd like to move into an outdoor navigation center. And when we do it, and both that process and the process of providing garbage containers to people and trying to manage the garbage, we're hoping will allow us to separate out that illegal dumping. And then on the enforcement end, we've handed out our illegal dumping reward cards to the homeless, to the unsheltered, to say, if you see dumping and you get the license plate, you could actually get a reward for turning that person in. Because we do have that program in the city. It's not well utilized, but I actually have a woman who lives at Union Point Park. She witnessed a maroon pickup truck. She gave me the license plate. He dumped a truckload of junk at the park, and we're pursuing them through the city attorney's office. And if we collect, she gets half of that. So our homeless crisis and our illegal dumping problem have sadly merged, and really aware of it.
Let me get from Stuart and Jim. Then I want to switch gears to two congregations that are doing some actual helping. One from East Palo Alto and also from Stuart and Jim.
You know, at first blush, your proposal to take advantage of a church's parking lot makes a lot of sense. Much of the time, it just sits vacant. It would be helpful, because we're an interfaith community and we can approach congregations and churches, synagogues, mosques, etc., and explore that as an option, and that's something we probably want to do. But it would be nice if we could have certain kind of understand minimum standards. What is it exactly you need? Do you need a locked gate? Do you need the congregation to provide a porta potty or wash system? If we could just have some kind of criteria that we could then present to them, it would be helpful.
He smiled when he asked, "Did the congregation need to provide a porta potty?"
No. I'm smiling because we actually, when we were first looking at this model, we asked our planning and our experts in zoning to tell us, how many square feet we need around each tent or around each RV, what kind of space. So we actually had the same guys that tell you what you can and can't do on your property when you're building. We had them try to develop some standards for this, and so we have a draft document of that. We do need to add to it, take into consideration security and fencing and things like that. And again, this is a pitch, and this is a pitch to join us and to develop something together. And if it started with, Christine would really be upset at me for saying this, but if it started with, if we had 3 or 4 sites identified, I would personally push to see more resources from the city dedicated to it. So the criteria is sort of there, and we've also looked at these other cities, Santa Barbara, Santa Rosa, that actually has rules and regs, and I shared them with some of the folks we met with on Monday, and I'm sure we can email them out. I mean, help us build that model. We're all ears, and we have some experts.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about the cooperation of the unhoused community, and we were talking about porta potties, I found it interesting when we met on Monday to prepare for this meeting, the report on the condition of the 9 porta potties that have gone out so far, that they're being fairly well maintained.
Yes, they are. I mean, the United, our contractor who provides them, said they're the best maintained porta potties that they put out. They're doing rock concerts, construction sites, but the folks who are using these really, really rely on them, and they're taking good care of them.
Okay, let me do this real quick. We have two questions now, one from the Paul, and then, sir, your name again, here, and Chris
And Greg, yeah.
Chris and Greg, okay. But, come on, Julie and Greg.
Well, I just wanted to say say that in my area, this has already been tried last year at First Presbyterian Church of Hayward, which is in Castro Valley. The Reverend Jake Metcalf opened up his parking lot last winter, and he brought in some porta potties. I'm sure that the congregation would pay for them. And so they were doing that all this last year, and I think this year they're going to try to create some space indoors as well. And, I know that you're not the epicenter of this problem. However, it really does exist everywhere. And unfortunately, an African-American elderly woman died on the street on Castro Valley Boulevard last year. And, so it's hitting home, and everyone is becoming more cognizant of it.
I'm on 9th and Castro. So the white church with the round dome right next to the freeway, we have parking lots on both sides of our church. So we're definitely willing to share.
I will give you my card.
Okay.
Let's give the Corinthians Baptist Church a hand. Let's hear from you.
And I would say, one of the unique opportunities we have is if we don't have a parking lot, we rent our space. But for you, it'd be great if we could support you too as other churches. So if there's things that you need in that process, whether it's like somebody to come in and clean up one day, we could get volunteers. So thank you again for what you're doing. I had two questions. One is more just, I'm curious of your thoughts, maybe as people, systemically what's going on in the Bay Area, as much as this is like, there's stuff going on in Oakland. Regionally, there's economic forces that are at work that are causing a lot of this stuff. What are your thoughts on that as the roots of the issue? That's just kind of a vague question, but I'd like to hear your response. And then I'm really grateful for the ask for like the parking lot thing. One of the things I've seen in the folks we've been connected to in the camps is it does feel like the faith community and the city's works are kind of disconnected sometimes. And I think that's because most of us just have a limited bandwidth, and we have like a few people we work with individually. But what I do see as a positive there is we kind of innovate different things, and we have some really unique relationships that are very hyper-specific. And so in addition to the parking lot ask, are there things that, like, if our church was focusing on one camp and we saw some different needs, is there a place we could go where we could go as congregations to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Is there anything you guys can help with, or how can we sync this up with something that's already going on? So is there like a resource like we could go to, or would it just be like your email or Yeah,
I'm going to actually have Lara think about that because I've been talking too much.
That's a really good question. It's one of our asks from Human Services to the City Council last budget cycle, which didn't get funded, was to create a position that could work with community groups, faith-based or otherwise, specifically to do that, specifically to help provide a sort of structure and guidance and coordinate all that. We didn't get that. In the meantime, what I would say is I will give you my card, and so we sort of hold that within our division of Human Services, and we would do our best to work with you and sort of troubleshoot and brainstorm with you. And in regards to your question about the sort of larger issue, that could be a many-day conversation. I think we probably can all agree this is a social justice issue, this is a racial equity issue, all of those things are at play. This is a gentrification issue throughout the county, throughout the country. So I don't want to leave that off the table. This is a very kind of micro drilling down to be like, can you put a family in a car in your parking lot? But of course, all of those other factors are at play, and we're aware of that. Which is a very brief answer to a very big question.
Stuart, then I want to get to Paul and get him adequate time to talk about what he's doing.
I wanted to address it expressed by this gentleman about coordination. That's one of the goals, that's one of the objectives of ICAP, Interfaith Council of Alameda County, is kind of coordinate these activities among the faith communities across the county. And that would be a great thing to do, because I think it would be wonderful if one church has a parking facility they could use, but they need assistance in others. There are other congregations out there that maybe would provide a porta potty, or maybe would help clean up on one day a week or something. So, and that's something I think we would coordinate. We'd want to do that.